Join us on the last bus home.
It's all good though. Got a strong coffee.
I don't think I'll.
Voice is sounding all right. It's been going about, mate. It's been going about.
It has, yeah. Actual full flu, yeah.
Ooh, not good.
Not a sniffle. I mean, actual
proper bedridden.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best, mate.
I've got a good one for you today.
Sweet. Looking forward to it.
This bus is bringing us home from Lake Bodom. So
Lake Bodom. Never heard of it, mate.
Right. Well, it's a fairly large lake in Finland, and in the 60s, specifically Saturday the 4th of June 1960, 14s were, for want of a better word, slaughtered down there.
Nice.
And it's been an enduring mystery. And then it wasn't a mystery for a while. And then it was a mystery again. So what I'll do, I'll lay out some facts, I'll lay out some non-facts, and I'll see what you think at the end.
Nice. We got a bit of like a Dyatlov Pass incidents where things get looked into, old research comes up.
No, this one is in no way paranormal or supernatural, or it's just purely a whodunit.
Nice.
Okay.
We're just going straight up 80s slasher.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
But there's one bit that suggests something odd, but it's very it can be dismissed quite easily. So Lake Bodom in Finland. It's located near Espoo. I'll call it Espoo, although it's got a double O at the end. and it's about 15, 16 miles from Helsinki. So quite near the capital. And on Saturday the 4th of June, 4 teenagers. There was Mela Nelly Bjorklund, who was, we will say 15/16. She was there for her birthday. We don't know if it was her birthday that day or what, but them being there was partly because of her birthday. She was accompanied by her friend Anya Tulikki-Mäki. Here forward will be known as Anya. She was 15. And then there was Anya's boyfriend, Seppo Antero Boisman. From here on in will be known as Seppo. He was 18. And then there was Nils Wilhelm Gustafsson, also 18, boyfriend of Mela. Now, and from here on in will be known as Nils. So they were there partly for Mela's 16th birthday, but also for something called the White Night. Now, this isn't some show by a guy who's going to run to the aid of girls on the internet being disrespected. This is night with an N, not a K. So what it is, with it being Finland, certain times of the year, it doesn't get fully dark. It kind of just stays twilight. And apparently it makes for a pretty evening. So this particular day was going to be a white night, and lots of people flocked to Lake Bodom to camp and enjoy the evening, and also enjoy Mela's birthday, have some beers and have a relax. So, they were set for a good night and probably a pretty good atmosphere. Now, they managed to, although it was busy, they managed to find a secluded enough area for themselves. because the way it's laid out around the lake is there's open areas, there's fishing areas, but there's also quite wooded and quite rural. So, they set off into their evening. However, the teens were found dead at 11 o'clock the next morning on Sunday, the 5th of June. Seppo was still in the tent with 2 punctures in his throat, 1 puncture to his chest, and his head was crushed. Okay. And he was all tangled up inside the tent. Anya was also in the tent, tangled up, and she'd suffered 2 heavy blows to the head and was believed to have remained alive for a good 2 or 3 hours after, but then succumbed to her injuries. And then Nils was laid on top of the tent with a broken jaw and a broken temple, and it had been hit on the back of his head so hard that cerebral fluid came out of his nose. And he'd also been stabbed in the cheek so severely that it just revealed all his teeth. And Mela, who pretty much took the worst of it, she was also laid on top of the tent. And she'd taken 3 heavy blows to the head, and then there were 15 post-mortem stabs to her chest and head and neck. And
So when you say stabs, do you just mean straight up knife stabs or just puncture wounds to the skin? I mean,
it's believed they were
thinking
knives,
about it,
but no weapons
knife
were
stabs.
found. So,
Right.
They don't know. They were just stabs, so punctures, we'll say.
Yeah. Okay.
And her clacks were pulled down, as well as her knickers, and her top was pulled up to her shoulders.
Oh, it's not a good sign.
It's not ideal. And all of them had defensive wounds on their arms and hands.
Wow. Okay, so my theory of a bear is out the window, unless it's a Randy bear.
Well, I don't know. I mean, people get hit by trains and their shoes come off. So,
That's true.
So the investigation, the police fucked it up from the start. Basically, they showed up at 12 o'clock. Like I said, they were found at 11 by a carpenter called Esko Oiver Johansson. And he'll not be known as anything else from here on in because he's not going to star in this anymore. And his sons, and they found the bodies like at 11 and then called the Popo. And they showed up at 12 and didn't set up a cordon. So basically all the other coppers that came along, they just walked wherever they wanted, tramped around. They probably didn't walk on the tent because they're not that much of a bunch of idiots, but they walked everywhere else. So any potential evidence was pretty much gone. And just to just pile on there, they did call the army in later to search the area, like a wider area, still with no cordon, so the army were pouncing around as well, which probably didn't help either. So it was believed the teens had been brutalized, let's say, between 4 and 6 in the morning. Okay. I'm guessing this was a forensic opinion. Now, it turns out no one was attacked in the tent. It seems from the way all the damage and all that to the tent happened that they were all in the tent asleep and were bludgeoned and stabbed from outside, blindly, it seems. So the killer or killers just went at them in a frenzy and they couldn't defend themselves. They didn't know where it was coming from or what was going on. And they believe blades and blunt objects, quite possibly a rock, was used. The word lead pipe was also thrown out, but one wasn't found, so I don't know where they come up with that. Could be made of anything if it was a pipe. So it appeared both sets of motorbike keys, because Seppo and Anya turned up on one motorbike and Nilsson Mailer turned up on another. And the motorbike keys were missing, but the bikes weren't. Okay, they were still there. And but wallets, watches, and Nils's prized leather jacket was gone too.
Right.
What was also found near the tent was a dirty pillowcase that was tied up at each end, but didn't belong to any of the teens. So that was a weird thing. The army, while searching the area, so they obviously searched around the lake. I think where this happened was nearer the south end of the lake. But looking at it on Google Maps and where all the kind of built-up areas are, it was quite possibly around the south-west kind of side. But I don't know. But the army, in their journeys, about 450 metres away from the scene, they found a pair of shoes, half kind of covered with leaves, with blood spatter on, and they turned out to be Nils's shoes. So, yeah, they were found, and that was obviously admitted to evidence. So at 6 a.m. of that Sunday morning, there were a couple of lads bird watching, and they saw apparently a tall blonde guy walking away from the area. Now, and a fisherman who was further up the coast. Is it a coast on a lake?
I say you can get away with that.
Yeah. Well, it is now.
Yeah.
So
Shoreline. Let's
good
go
word, good word, Lee. Yeah. So further up the shore, he saw again a blonde guy walking away from the area, but he got a much better look at him. So that is pretty much the murders, essentially, and
Cool.
what was seen. So now we're moving on to our suspects.
Before we do, just a couple of little questions about the actual place. Just trying to get a picture of it in my head. Are we talking? Sorry, did you say the actual size of the place? Is this a big lake where something can happen on one side and no one knows about it on the other? Is it, fairly popular with?
I think
kind of
at
kids
some point it
and
can be.
campers?
It's a good couple of miles wide.
Okay, so it's a pretty decent size,
Yeah, it's not like a UK lake.
right?
Pissy little things. It's
Yeah,
quite a big, and I'm gonna. I mean, like I say, I looked on Google Maps, and it's the lake itself's bigger than a lot of the towns near it. So,
okay, right.
and you can be near the lake and say you're from a different town and all that. It's not like
Yeah,
it's not tiny. It doesn't belong to one place. So,
right.
because it's near Espoo, but also there's a town called Oita, which is nearby,
Right.
and that's near the lake.
And are you getting kind of like, for want of a better word, I have no idea of the like geographical location. Are we getting like a redneck vibes, or is it like a bit of an old marketplace?
Well, it's
What kind of people would frequent it?
Finnish people.
Yep, that's fair.
It's Helsinki is on the south coast of Finland, which
Okay.
is on the basically the stretch of sea between the rest of Europe and you've got Norway on the western side, and then there's Sweden, and then there's Finland. But Norway and Finland meet at the top above Sweden as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And Helsinki, being the capital, is on the shore. It'd be a major hub.
Yeah.
Now, if you travel northwest for about 15 miles, 16 miles, I mean, there's a lot of water and islands around that area. But as the crow flies, we're looking about 15 miles away is Bodom.
Right, okay.
And it is, I'd say the layout, when it comes to built-up areas and rural areas out there, it's kind of, it's like I said, I think the layout's kind of like Yorkshire.
Okay.
You've got a lot of rural, but you're also, if you're wanting a bit of urban, it's there if you need it.
Okay, cool.
So, the suspects we have. Okay, now what I've done, I've not ranked them, but the order I'm going to go through them is order of shitness. I'll start with who I believe to be the crappiest suspect. Moving up.
So we're going like the dullest kills.
Yeah. Moving on up to the final boss level of my favourite suspect. Yeah. Now, it turns out about 4,000 people were interviewed and suspected. In the pool of suspects, they were looking at about 4,000 people. But we've only got a very few who were decent. So the first one is Pentti Soininen. Now, during the 60s, he was known for his violent tendencies. And he claimed while he was in prison to a fellow inmate that he was responsible for the murders. And this would have made him 14 at the time. So it was dismissed because the police dismissed him because they didn't think a 14-year-old could overpower 4 drunk teenagers.
That's fair.
But I don't think he could have been. I personally don't think he should have been really dismissed that quickly. And he may not have been. I wasn't there. But they were drunk and it was a surprise attack. And they were asleep, essentially. So if they were attacked from the outside, like just bashing with rocks and blades on the side of the tent, I don't see why.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah. I see where you're coming from. I was thinking earlier on from
you
those
get decent enough knock on your brain first.
Yeah.
You're going to be stunned, aren't you? So,
fair play.
No, go on. What was your thought there?
No, I was going to say it was just the way the attacks were reported earlier. It sounded like some kind of beast did it. Do you know what I mean? Like the jaw was kind of like swiped off and the head was mashed in. Can a 14-year-old kid really do that? But
it was
maybe, like you say,
frenzied. Right? But we know very little about this kid, and he could be country strong.
Yeah. Could be a little Chad.
Yeah. Now, but he was ultimately dismissed based on his age. So the Finnish police know better than me.
Fair.
So then our next suspect is Pauli Perinen. This is Mela, the birthday girl. This is her ex-boyfriend. Who she was cheating on with Nils. But apparently he was quickly ruled out because he was with friends on that night. Now, there's nothing...
You say she was 15?
You
say she was 15?
15/16. She was there celebrating her 16th birthday. Whether she'd already turned it or was due to, that's what it was.
She's too young for all that drama, dude.
It's a different time.
Stay away from them book.
It's a different
I guess.
So, but he was quickly ruled out, like I say. But again, who's to say, if he was with two friends as an alibi and they were friends, who's to say they weren't covering? But then again, like I say, I wasn't there, and who am I to question the Finnish police? So brings us to our next suspect. Now, I know I said I'm putting them in order of shitness, but these first three are all equally shit. Okay, this one, looking back at it, I think is quite possibly the crappiest. This is a guy. We don't have his name. He's known as Kivitasku, which means stone pocket. Now, this just sounds like your local nutter, like from Leeds or something. He was a young guy in his 20s. He used to go around with a pillowcase full of rocks and just swing it at people randomly.
Every town has one of them.
Exactly. So, but apparently he had a solid alibi, but he was from Espoo, so he was a local lad. But everyone's got the local nutter who's got a pillowcase full of rocks.
And also, didn't you say they found a pillowcase tied?
Which is why
Oof.
he got into the pool of suspects and got high up in the rankings of 4,000 people. But he was soon ruled out. Apparently had an alibi who was probably swinging his pillowcase at other people. So now we're getting to the two decent ones now. Now we've got a German man, right? But he's a citizen of Finland. But he later moved to Sweden where he died. But Hans Assmann, okay, spelt exactly how you think.
No.
Now, he was suspected of committing 5 other murders, but he claimed to be in Germany for them. But he also claimed to be in Germany for these killings. However, this happened on the morning of the 6th of June. He showed up on the 7th in a hospital in Helsinki, 15 miles away, covered in blood and mud and drunk, complaining of stomach pains. And apparently he laid there what appeared to be passed out. But the doctors saw that he was just screwing his eyes shut and faking it. So they tickled him. And then he woke up and started kicking off with them. And, they just didn't believe him and also because he was drunk. But he did refuse to explain the mud and blood all over him. And by this time, with it being like the 7th, a police sketch had been circulated and he resembled it. Now, he was a shady character, but he was also a character who was full of shit. Well, he was believed to be, because he claimed that he had been a Nazi in the Luftwaffe. But whilst guarding a concentration camp, I'm not sure which one, he apparently fell in love with a Jewish woman, which was frowned upon in his circles.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So he was, as a punishment, I'm guessing she was dealt with, and he was sent to the Eastern Front, to fight the Russians, where he was captured by the Russians. And somehow he claims to have been drafted into the KGB.
We've all spoken to that guy at the pub as well.
Every time we've got one of them, yeah. though most of them are in Morley. Yeah, so anyway, he died in the 90s and he confessed to one killing on his deathbed. And this was a killing in 1953 when he was in the KGB. Him and his partner were driving around in a rural area and they hit a cyclist and she died. And they hid the body. And he wasn't really believed, like I say, 'cause he was known as a bit of a bullshitter anyway. So I kind of just dismissed that. Now, there is something that's really weird here. There are various photographs of Nils and Seppo and Mela and Anya, and there's photos of. There's no photos of Stone Pocket or anything like that, but there are photos of Hans Assmann, and there's also a photograph of one of the teens or all of the teens' funeral. I don't know if they all had one funeral, but there is a photograph of a load of mourners at one of their funerals. And right in the centre of this black and white photo is a really prominent face. It's ugly as sin, but it matches perfectly one of the police sketches. And it's like this picture in this photograph, which obviously you're going to have to go look at after hearing this, is a perfect link between the sketch and the photos of Hans. Okay.
Damn.
And it looks like him, like he's there to gloat. I don't know, but it looks just like him, which is why he's still kind of a favourite. But apparently, he was at the time of the murders. It is said, and this is also corroborated, that he was with his mistress, her sister, and her husband at the time of the killings. And apparently, this had been corroborated by his mistress's sister, and her sister's husband. So we don't, that got him ruled out.
Right. Okay.
So we don't know if his bird was lying for him or not.
Right.
It's not unheard of. But he was a strong suspect.
And that's a pretty weak alibi. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, it's
flimsy at best.
Yeah.
To say when you see the the sketches, it's ridiculous that he got away with it.
Well, in my head, I'm picturing Tall Man from Phantasm.
No, probably more little short white-haired guy from the Burbs.
Yes. No, the dude. Yep, got him. Little creepy bastard.
That's more him.
Yep.
So, now for the ultimate suspect, for me, Carl Valdemar Gilstrom. This guy was evil. Straight up evil. To quote Mike Myers in Some Axe Murderer, evil like the fruit of the devil. He was from Oita, which is in the south of Lake Bodom, and just generally not a nice man. Okay, he was a drunk. He was shit to his wife. He was also shit to campers. Now, his wife ran the kiosk on the lakeside where all the campers went. That's where everyone bought the beer and the supplies and, everything. And his wife ran it. And she were pretty surly. She were getting annoyed with campers being noisy and taking the piss.
Yeah.
Now, if, the age group is 18-year-olds, 15-year-olds, everything in between, I'm guessing it would be pretty rowdy. And
yeah,
I just can't see everybody being able to hold the beer. So he really hated him. So, he was known for being hostile anyway. Such antics involve shouting and screaming at him all the time, throwing rocks at tents, cutting guy ropes with a rather large knife that he carried around on his belt.
Man, these are all really arsehole things to do. Do you know what I mean?
Also, he was known to take pot shots with his rifle at like cyclists and threw rocks at them, screeching at people who'd go near his street. But he had lots of apple trees like around the area, and he used to put razor blades in the apples
No way.
just to hurt the campers who nicked them. Yeah. So, and also when he was told about the murders, when they were like door knocking, didn't bat an eyelid, completely emotionless when told about it. So, and it's also said, I don't know who by, but various people saw him leaving the scene, but because he was such a dick, a lot of people were too afraid to finger him, point him out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they're all afraid of him. So he was obviously a local cock. So, but Carl, they dismissed him, did the police, because there was no usable evidence. And despite confessions that he was apparently made, they dismissed them because they just believed he was disturbed. Which, yes, he was. Very. But seemed to have the MO of the killer, But no DNA was taken from any suspects. This seems to be a thing that gets mentioned when people talk about blunders in the case. But I had a little look-see. Now, this was in 1960. DNA wasn't used in criminal cases in Finland, I found, until 1991. So why would they?
Okay. Yeah. Good point.
I do know that in previous crimes in different countries and that, for some reason, people did take these things and store them. And then decades later, there's some break in science. But I'm guessing the Bodom police or Espoo police, it was quite rural. I don't think DNA was on very high up their list, even if they knew about it. But it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't officially used until 91 anyway, so don't matter. An arrest was made in March 2004. The Finnish National Bureau of Investigation arrested Nils.
Nils?
Because he survived.
What?
He'd had his head bashed about and his cheek cut, but he didn't die.
Well, this is a twist.
Isn't it?
God damn. Before you do go into that, though, just what state was Nils in again when he was found? When he was at the tent?
Fucked.
Was he the one with his head bashed in?
He's the one who had the broken jaw.
Yeah.
Back of his head hit so hard that cerebral fluid came out of his nose.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
He had a broken temple and his cheek slashed open.
Right, okay. You can come back from that.
Yeah. But pictures of him at the time in hospital didn't really look that bad. But
right.
Again, I'm not a Finnish doctor, so I couldn't tell you. So this is apparently what happened. Is Nils arrived at Lake Bodom with Mela on the back of his motorbike. And then shortly after, Seppo and Anya arrived on Seppo's bike. And Seppo apparently, I don't know where a lot of these story bits come from, because there was only those four and they died. And Nils has loads of amnesia about the whole
Right.
thing.
Right.
Whether, because of the knocks on the head or conveniently, we don't know. But apparently Seppo did like an action skid up, spraying dirt, and got off his bike. And this made Mela laugh. And then as they were going to the kiosk to get supplies, Seppo were talking about how much better his bike is than Nils's bike, and making jokes about it, which made Mela laugh, and Nils wasn't liking this. And they went to the kiosk and ordered all the beer and food, supplies, sweeties, and what have you. And like I say, it was Carl's wife who was running the kiosk. So she was quite surly anyway, because she had an abusive, drunken husband. And she had to deal with abusive, drunken teenagers. So she wasn't a happy lady. But Seppo were cracking jokes about her, cracking jokes about everything, but this was just making Mela laugh all the time, which was annoying Nils quite a bit, because Nils was thinking something was going on between them. Now, she does have form,
Okay.
because Nils was seeing Mela behind her boyfriend's back, who was a suspect briefly. So he's thinking, if she did it with me. So, but apparently nothing was going on. Again, we don't.
Right.
Whose word do we have for this?
This little group sounds like they've got issues, man.
They just sound like any old group of teenagers, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Seppo and Nils stayed up late drinking. Now, in a drunken rage, Nils accused Seppo of carrying on with Mela, and went at him. Went in for some fists. Got his jaw broke. So, in a fit of rage for getting his jaw broke, he killed everyone. That's the story. And then Nils ran away, obviously, if he killed everyone. But then he ran 450 metres and thought, I'll get accused if I run away. So I'll ditch my shoes, go back, bash my own head in, and then I won't get accused. That was the story.
No, I'm not vibing with that.
Yeah. Now, when the army found these shoes, they did have blood splattered on them. And the blood that they found on them were Mela's, Seppo's, and Anya's. None of Nils's blood was on there. And they said the inside of the shoes, there was no blood. So he was clearly wearing them when he did the killings. But he was claiming that, like any hygienic Finn, he took his shoes off before he went in his tent and left them outside. So the killer took them. That was what he was saying.
Has there been any kind of mention to Nils' character? Because that would explain everything. Is he the douchebag little Chad who's likely to get jealous and just, for the sake of his own ego, murder everyone? Or was he one of those guys where everyone's like, no, never expected it, he was a lovely boy?
Nils was the cool kid. He was a massive Elvis fan.
Okay.
And this was 1960. So
okay. It's like being
he was 18. So his best years growing up were through the 50s. So he was a big Elvis fan. He used to brush his hair either back or up. He had dark hair, and he used to have it spiked. And there's pictures of him where he's wearing like a Hawaiian sort of shirt with the sleeves rolled up.
Ah, stud. God damn.
And good-looking kid. Very dark eyes, quite sallow-skinned.
Okay.
In one of the photos he keeps seeing of him, doesn't look unlike Rami Malek,
Okay.
the Mr. Robot guy.
Yep. Yep.
Looks quite a bit like him, but then there's other photos where he just looks like a guy, just a person, you know.
Right. Right.
But he was the cool kid anyway. He had his slip-on loafers, his half-mast jeans, and his little rolled-up sleeve shirt over a t-shirt. Hair brushed up. He had his motorbike. He was your James Dean sort of looking Elvis fan, you know.
Cool. So we're not talking an incel here. Doesn't sound like the type to just go crazy on his girlfriend and mates.
No, no, he was just the cool kid, and that was essentially it. He wasn't, and from what I can tell, not really that much of a dick. However, saying he's not a dick, he was carrying on with someone behind her boyfriend's back, which
Yeah. Is that?
dick move. So, this with the shoes, with the no blood on the inside, was like a key point in his prosecution. And to back this up, the FNBI used Mailer's diary because she had a diary with her, so she wasn't partying that hard. But all she wrote in it for that kind of weekend or that night was Seppo and Nils drunk, awake at 2 a.m. Seppo is in the woods.
Whoa.
And that's it. That's
Kind of cryptic.
Yeah, that's the diary. But I don't know what the level of intelligence of this rural Finnish 15-year-old girl is.
I'm also going to say, if you're going to write something in a diary, make it interesting. Who the fuck wants to read that? Do you know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, you don't write in your diary for other people to read.
That's true. That's true.
So basically, the FNBI were believing that Nils was the tall blonde guy with flowing hair, which he didn't have. He didn't have flowing hair. It was either slicked back or brushed up, and it was dark brown. But it was also said by somebody that 10 years later, Nils was overheard telling a woman at a bus stop that it was him, randomly. Just like, you're waiting for the bus, you're getting bored, what do? Confess to murders, clearly, because that makes the bus come quicker.
Of course it does.
Yeah. And also, apparently, a young woman came forward claiming that she saw Nils and Seppo arguing. And that Seppo had kicked off with Nils because he was apparently had been forcing himself on Mela when she turned his advances down.
Jeez.
Anyway, later that year, in October of that year, Nils was acquitted because apparently there wasn't a motive strong enough for such a heinous crime. But the facts and recall were unreliable after such a long time, like 44 years, you know. So during the initial search of the area by the army, it turned out that dozens of wanted fugitives were found around in the woods around Lake Bodom.
What?
It just seemed to be where fugitives hid. They found dozens of them.
Jeez.
So that kind of helped Nils's case.
Yeah, that kind of opens things up a bit.
Yeah. And as forensic science kind of improved, and we're now up in, 2005, it was found that blood was inside the shoes.
Okay.
And it was consistent with splatter on the tent. So that corroborated his story that he'd left his shoes outside the tent.
Okay.
And apparently, Nils's socks were a bit dirty, but nowhere near dirty enough for him to have run 450 metres next to a lake
Yeah.
with no shoes on.
Yeah.
That was good. And the woman who came forward to say she saw them arguing about Nils forcing himself on Mailer was apparently a known liar, and she did it for publicity all the time. She couldn't name the friends that she was with, and the site that she said she was staying at the time didn't even exist in the 60s. So that got dismissed.
Okay.
Now, apparently the pillowcase did have male fluid on, but it wasn't Nils's or Seppo's. Now, Hans Assmann's son sent in some DNA because he wanted to know if his dad was anything to do with it.
Holy shit. Assman Jr. getting involved. What's going on?
No match.
Grassing on his dad.
Yeah. But also, which was left out in the prosecution but was later found out, that Nils had been hypnotised shortly after he got out of hospital. And he described the blonde guy, which his description was used to do the police sketch, and was shown to the fisherman who'd seen the blonde guy leave the area, and he confirmed the sketch. The one that looked exactly like Assman. So, later, about 9 years later, after the killings, but obviously a good 30 years before the conviction, Carl Gilstrom, the monster, was talking to a friend, his neighbour, and they were having a beer by the lake. And he confessed over a beer to the killings. And apparently his neighbour said to him, if it was you that killed those kids, you should go down to that lake and drown yourself, because otherwise you're going to spend the rest of your life in a little cell. Now that sounds like you were going to grass him.
Damn.
That sounded like a threat. That sounds like a threat to me.
You don't just say that. Yeah.
And strangely, the next day, the following day, Carl was found drowned in the lake.
No way.
Police couldn't work out if it was accidental or suicide or what, but Carl did drown in that lake the next day. So maybe he took the threat, or maybe threat from his neighbours, seriously.
That's too much of a coincidence because, I mean, to be honest, he was my suspect number one.
And his wife did later come forward, and she said that she'd covered for him at the time, saying that he was at home, but she actually later said he didn't even come home that night, and she'd only covered for him because she was scared.
And she owned the lakeside shop, right?
The kiosk, yeah.
The kiosk. Man, this it's almost too convenient because if you think about it in even like an 80s slasher term, how convenient is it if it was the dodgy old couple who ran the lakeside kiosk murdering all the summer teens? Do you know what I mean? It writes itself.
Yeah, you'd have Kathy Bates playing the kiosk lady.
Hell yes.
So when he got acquitted, the state of Finland paid Nils €44,900, which in real money is £37,356 and 80p for mental suffering. And Nils refused to sue the papers. That is the end of my Lake Bodom story, Lee. What are your thoughts?
I liked him, man. It's so wait, so are we still going? So it's still kind of a mystery.
Yeah, like I say, it was a mystery to begin with. Then it wasn't for about 10 months. and then it was again because Nils got off. Now, there's plenty of evidence for Nils, but there's also quite enough there for what was it, reasonable doubt. There's a lot against Assman and there's a lot against Carl, but Carl is my clear favourite.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Assman, what a great character, but yeah,
In his own right, yeah.
in his own right.
He should just get his own film.
Definitely, The Adventures of Assman. I mean, why not? But
Man the Nazi. It's a comic
for me
waiting to be done.
Exactly. But for me, Nils was a no. It's
and also, sorry, I forgot one just a little extra. Assman's son did submit DNA and it came back no match.
Okay.
Carl's son refuses to submit DNA.
Well, okay, right. That's just another nail in the coffin, isn't it? Yeah. And like I said, Nils, for me, that was definitely a non-starter. I don't believe a good-looking kid. I don't want to throw.
Well, a lot of the defence was saying there's no way he could carry all that out with a broken jaw. So Seppo never did break his jaw, but equally, what he couldn't inflict all of those wounds on himself when just one of those wounds would incapacitate him. Apart from maybe the slash to the cheek, he could probably keep rocking after that. But to knock your head hard enough to get a bit of brain out your nose.
That's it. And for no one to actually notice that you're an absolute psychopath, for you to kill all your friends, decide to go back in and lay in the tent until you're found, it's too much, man. And there's too much stacked against Carl for him not to be the dude. The fact he walked into the lake and finished himself off.
Or did he?
I mean,
or did the neighbour do it? Or did
I've set this in my head.
We're done.
You imagine getting that
Nils
kind of
survived.
threat.
Maybe that's part of his movie that he took his revenge.
But yeah, I mean, you get that threat, dude. People are going to know what you've done. Go kill yourself. The next day, sign me up. Carl's the dude for me.
I tell you, this Carl reminds me of his old Mick Taylor from Wolf Creek.
Yep. Yeah, I'm getting those kind of vibes.
Mm.
Yep.
I'm not getting a Leatherface or Jason feel. I'm getting a Mick Taylor feel.
Who did we say looks like the Klopex from Burbs? Was that Hans?
That was Hans. Looks more like that.
That was right.
Let me.
I'm just getting a nice shady bunch of characters. This lake sounds wild, which is why I'm like, I was going down the route of redneck. I mean, is it an opulent area? The big houses, are they?
Well, it has inspired. I think a 2023 movie.
Oh, nice.
A metal band, various YouTubes and podcasts. But there's a metal band called the Children of Bodom.
Yep.
And the frontman is from Espoo.
Ah, no way.
Yeah.
So they are literally based on that story, Children of Bodom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the frontman who formed the band, now deceased, is from Ground Zero.
That's pretty cool. So this is I'm guessing a big story, not just back in the day, but it's kind of like gone into folklore.
Right, here we go. I'm going to show you Hans Assman alongside the photo fit.
Okay.
Keep saying photo fit. Sketch.
Oh, no way. Look at that. Look at those sunken eyes. That's pretty bang on, dude.
Isn't it?
That's pretty bang on.
And there's also the funeral picture.
Ah, yeah. Look at that. Totally. Why is he there?
It's fully him,
solid.
isn't it? Let me see. Let's find Seppo in his cool. Not Seppo.
Nils
in his.
Sounds like Teddy Boy kind of vibe.
His Rami Malek look.
I'm going. Nils is innocent. I've already decided. Let's check this boy out. Yes, that's exactly how I imagined. That kid's got style. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
And there's
knows the spell.
also,
That's no murderer.
and finally, I'll just show you Carl. And for those listening, I know this is just an audio podcast, but please
I'm sure they'll be able to research these dudes.
go away and look these up.
These are some insidious looking characters. Yeah. Oh, man. Keep that there. Who the hell does he remind me of?
Yeah, there's some.
Jeez. There's definitely some actor in there, man. Yeah, that's kind of how I imagined him. That's a town of, not a town, a lake.
Well, there's another picture of him at the kiosk.
So he ran the kiosk with his wife, or was it just his wife's?
Well, no, his wife ran it. I think he just sat outside it getting drunk. So that's the kiosk, and that's him sat next to it. Look at it.
Grim.
Just oozes evil.
Think about it. Think about all the resentment that dude's going to have with just growing old and seeing all those kids come to that lake, fanny about, get pissed up. He's going to get pissed off. Exactly, doing all kinds of shit, and he's going to be sat there miserable in his little kiosk. He's going to do some killing, man. I'm fully convinced, 100%. Tell the Finnish police
himself on the razor blades he's stuffing in apples.
This is it. Tell the Finnish police to pull a finger out their ass. It's clearly Carl. What are they thinking?
I am not a member of the Suomi PD, so I don't know what they do, so I can't question their methods. However, several balls were dropped.
No shit.
So, that was the Lake Bodom mystery, also known as the Lake Bodom murders or the Lake Bodom killings. And that was the last bus home from Bodom.